we all have the lepers in our life that we just want to go, I'm not going there with that person. I'm just not going to, I don't want to interact with them. They bother me. There's something about it. And it's telling us that you've got to look at it. You've got to look into it so that you understand what you're afraid of. And it is the face of Christ that we're afraid of. We're afraid of union, of understanding that beyond all appearances, the Son of God is there. But, that's the challenge.
Well, you brought up something. I'm going to bring it up because I think it's appropriate, which is, there's all this talk about the immigration thing in Springfield, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's all these Haitians, and they're being inundated. And certainly, statistically, you can see that there's a real, that there's a problem.
Yes.
A big problem with the immigration thing. There's a problem with all this stuff. And to just have a sense of like, come to me with open arms, bring me your ragged, you're hungry, you're teeming,
you're weary,
whatever,
yes.
masses, the Statue of Liberty thing. If you do that, it could be very, very naive. None of this is called for. There's no politicization. There's no political discourse required to understand how the Course addresses this. It's not necessary to understand the statistics or the facts.
Right.
It's just this. I see a situation. I'm in a small community. I can experience the fear of being inundated by Somalis or any racial group, right? The fear of that, because these towns are limited in their way. I'm not asked to overcome those fears. I'm not asked to lay down that particular paranoia or fear or legitimate concern. That's not what this is about. It's to look on this as opportunity and to say, I see nothing but the bloody face. That's all I see. I'm seeing the blood on the face of Christ pouring at me, and I know that this is the veil. I know I'm looking squarely into the veil because I am afraid.
Right.
I
it's
see
the dark veil.
And if that's what I have, then I have to admit that to myself. I see nothing but the dark veil. But as soon as you admit that to yourself, and you go to that little garden space, the peace that it talks about in other places, and you find that it creates the voidness for the Holy Spirit to come in and say, let's pull this apart a bit at a time. And that way I get a chance to participate in the miraculous unveiling.
Right.
That I'm no longer seeing the immigration thing. Now, it's not in my backyard, right? It's not happening now. I'm just saying, I'm setting myself up. I don't know what I'm setting up, because if this goes on. But when it happens, pushing back, gripping, strangling it, doing whatever, it doesn't remove you from the logistical, statistical realities of what is going on. But in terms of feelings and what you are seeing, I have to recognize that if I have fear and if I have dreads and if I don't want to see this thing, this is the veil. By definition, in the Course, it is the veil.
Yeah, I would agree.
And that the work is not to say, well, I never know. Maybe there'll be a wonderful contribution to the community. That's not what this is about.
No, the point isn't that. The point, because we can't know what the situation needs to become or anything else without joining with the Holy Spirit. All it wants is that you be at peace and the brother is at peace.
At that point, the Holy Spirit is the only one with agency.
Right.
It doesn't matter what any government official or politico or journalist or anything. It doesn't matter what anybody is saying or doing about anything. At the moment when I'm partnering with the Holy Spirit, I have this garden space. I've recognized I'm seeing the bloody face. I get a chance to participate in salvation. I get a chance to participate in seeing, unveiling the face of Christ. I don't know what it looks like.
Right.
Right?
Right. None of us do.
There's no compromise. There's no exceptions. It's not an exception. If I'm, as I said, Joanna and I are here, we're in a small town, and if we were, let's say, tagged by some, I don't know what, world organization to receive a flood of people, it's not up to me to love everybody. It's not up to me to forgive everybody. It's not up to me to stay here. It's not up to me to move. It's not up to me to politicize. It's up to me to act in the social context how I feel it's necessary to act in a social context. However, that has to be informed by recognizing that the fears I feel, the dreads I feel, is the veil on the face of the Holy Christ that is wanting to come to me.
Right.
And I can be a part of this agency. I can participate with the agency bringing salvation, healing, love, peace, unity, brotherhood, all these things with this partnership in doing this work in the Course in Miracles. It doesn't mean that that my actions find a manifestation in the pages of the Course in Miracles. This has nothing to do with activism. It has nothing to do with political attitude.
I agree.
The political attitude is taken care of.
It's one-on-one. It's in your daily interactions that the Holy Spirit's going to work with. I mean,
it's so beautiful.
If you're called to do something in whatever your work is,
it's so beautiful because it's guaranteed. If you look at it, I don't mean to sound like a crazy fundamentalist, but it's guaranteed. And I feel like I've seen enough of the way the Course in Miracles works in terms of a metaphysical structure of the world and the proofs that it provides. I feel confident that I don't need to know the answer to those heavy questions. I don't need to know how I will react in those heavy situations.
Right. Because it's going to be moment to moment. There's only the now space to react to.
And
anyway.
the now is absolutely particular, absolutely precisely molded to heal all parties.
Right.
You realize the darker the situation, the worse it seems, the more hopeless it seems to fix it logistically, statistically, whatever it is, the better. The better. It gets better and better.
For this to get to see this in action.
If this is reality, the other is an illusion. Because what happens is, in the case of, let's say, the immigrants or the situation, because it happens, right? That's an isolated case, the deal in Springfield. It's isolated, but now it's newsworthy for whatever reasons. That is just a small instance, and so it gets to be a test case for me, for all situations. But this is particularly good because it seems dreadful. It seems hopeless. Because this has happened in France, it happened in Sweden, it happened across Europe. It's been a massive technology, a diaspora, waves and waves. It's a global agenda of some sort acting itself out. None of that matters. Doesn't matter what I know about it, and I'm fairly versed on it. It doesn't matter.
Right.
The only thing that matters is the fear I feel, the lack of forgiveness I feel, the veil that reveals the veil, right? Amazingly reveals the hiding mechanism.
Right.
So all I can do is look at it and say, I see the veil. Help me to lift this veil. And then you don't know, or I don't know. Nobody knows what would be synergy. Healing, holistic, miraculous partnerships.
We don't know what the next interaction would be or anything. I mean, right now we have a whole new, what is it, that kind of cable that's going in the ground. And every single one of those people are Mexicans. They're not from here, and they're putting in a whole new infrastructure in our town. And I don't know if they're legal or not legal. I mean, they're doing the hard work.
That's a good one. So let's say I got a whole bunch of Mexican guys in my yard. Of course, this happens all over the United States. And they're digging these holes, and they're running these cables, and they're putting in Twin Valley is putting in a new cable system. And I can look at it and go, here they are. Are they taking jobs? Are they working too cheap? Who's hiring these guys?
Right.
Are they shipping them in? What's the problem here? I can get into whatever suspicious mode I want to about it. But the only thing I have to pay attention to is, what do I see out there in that lime-colored shirt so they don't get hit by a car? What do I see out there? Do I see a brother? If I'm afraid and I see a threat, I'm looking at the bloody face of Christ.
That's exactly right. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So what do you see? What do you think?
Well, the thing of it is that a lot of those thoughts did go through my mind and stuff like that. And I said, no, I did say these are people. These are, I mean, if they aren't green carded in or whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. They're people who have sought the United States dream to be here. They wanted to get here one way or another.
Beyond that,
I mean,
They are myself.
right. They are myself.
That's me in the yard they're digging around.
Yeah.
That's me in the yard they're digging around.
Right.
That's what it is. And as
And
soon
it's
as
my struggle too to have a world where I think that I can live in peaceably and everything else. I'm sure, when you look at people, it's like they really mostly on the internal part want the same things, because we're made up of the same stuff, really. We ultimately want to be loved. We want to be accepted. We want to be in a community that likes us and everything else. And they're not other. And I think it's important for when we see things like this going on and everything else that they are not. It's not like
I know, but I just want to
Okay,
warn.
go ahead.
I want to absolutely and unequivocally warn against making this social attitudinal
Right.
shifting. It has nothing to do. I can be, let's say, terrified to my boots about the takeovers, about the agendas, about the whatever, World Health Organization. I can choose to be terrified about any situation, any circumstance I want. I may or may not have control over that. Right? But the thing I do not have control, that I do have some control over, is to notice that I'm projecting the bloody face of Christ onto my brother,
Yeah.
who is actually myself. I'm ignorant. I'm in need of forgiveness. I'm in need of forgiveness.
Right.
And who needs to forgive me? This guy needs to forgive me.
Right.
So that's the situation I'm in. And the healing is now. It doesn't mean that suddenly, what do you know, a truck came and took them all away. It doesn't, none of that. You don't know what's going to happen next, historically, statistically, logistically. But what you do know is that healing is now. That's all I need to know, is that healing is right now.
Right.
And when I see him as my brother,
Yes.
it's only for one very selfish reason, to cop a miracle. That's the only reason. It's not about the Mexicans,
No.
and it's not about
Right.
the world brotherhood of man.
Right.
It's about that guy and me getting a miracle. That's all I want. Make it selfish,
Right. I agree. Yeah. I agree.
because that's the only real thing. The
Right.
miracle, the glimmer of the face of Christ is the only real thing. So it's fair.
How else am I going to learn? How am I just going to have
It's
faith?
fair to be selfish
Right.
about that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree about that.
So with these, let's say, Mexican guys, the immigrants, whatever, I'm using it only because it's a timely issue, could be in-laws or relatives. I only have to identify the obstacle. That's all I have to do, to find that secret place, that quiet place, that garden, and then to partner with the Holy Spirit, and then, as I said, be selfish for a miracle. Selfish meaning I'm in hell. Okay?
Yeah, so long as I'm seeing as something that I'm afraid of in my world, then I'm in hell. Yeah.
And when I'm in hell, I need that brother. I need that guy that's pulling cable, or those Haitians, or whatever, or whoever that person is that I'm laying this thing on. I need them in this now moment for resurrection. They will heal me, and we will be resurrected together. They won't escape without the grace of this situation, nor will I. And this is how the world changes, but it only changes through the selfishness. I don't mean to be preachy. The selfishness of clamoring after the miracles that happen only in that precise now. I might look with a little mild suspicion, well, they'll be done pretty soon, and Twin Valley will be finished, and they'll be out of here, and I don't have to think about it. Or I can look at it and say, no, there's a kind of a disquiet about this whole situation. I don't know what it is. And that guy can participate with me in some way. I haven't done it yet. I don't know.
Right.
Can participate in salvation.
Right.
And I can somehow receive forgiveness from this guy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, just by changing my mind about not wanting to be suspicious or whatever, just saying, I don't know.
I've already changed. Just us having the conversation has already changed
right.
my attitude.
I cannot know what I'm looking at. Basically, I cannot know that the brother that I'm seeing in a negative light is there to remind me that all of it is basically an illusion. And so long as I want to make it fearful, so long as I want to make it as something, a terror in my life, it will remain terror. It will remain a hell. But it doesn't say that I do this on my own. That I just say, oh, it's not that. That's just an illusion. That thing that's evil that's happening over there. No, it says, it's where you're just like down on your knees and going, Lord, let me see this another way. Lord, let me see this another way. So that at that point, you are turning it over, particularly if you're that afraid of whatever is coming at you. If you honestly think that something awful is going to happen. We just experienced that in when we went to the grocery store with that Asian woman who that she was like, she either had OCD or something, like she's throwing your food back on the...
Yeah, she was freaked out about something.
She was freaked out. And you have to wonder, like, she couldn't speak good English or anything, and we were like, I don't know what was wrong.
Well, that brings up something, because, okay, so let's take this Asian woman that I see she was behaving very erratically, and she treated several people this way. So she was kind of like the topic of conversation after she finally did leave the grocery store. She had sort of attacked several people in a certain way, in terms of a paranoia.
Right, she seemed very, very afraid of even being around people.
Well, okay, so let's just take that as a phenomenon in my field. That comes into my field. Mm-hmm. And I can say, well, that was out there, that lady has problems, that is this. Mm-hmm. Or I can say, I can feel compassion there. I can say, well, actually, to the degree that I don't embrace her erratic behavior and her attacks, to the degree that I cannot embrace that as myself, I hold it to the proverbial bosom. To the degree that I cannot, and it's disturbing sometimes. Mm-hmm. I mean, if she had been more lit or more paranoid, it could have been more difficult. But to the degree that I can't just allow her to be a part of me I don't understand, a part of me I don't get, and then go with the Holy Spirit, and I go in this partnership and say, how do these things appear? Mm-hmm. How is it that this is in my field? What is it about this? Is she a harbinger of the irrationality to come? Is she, is she preparing me? Is she giving me a gift of knowledge about the kind of world that I would have to be prepared to see and to forgive? Of a certain brand of irrationality that might be in huge dimensions.
Right. And there might be a lot more of it.
Right. And it's not to me to rationalize or psychologize. It's only to recognize to what degree was that a disturbing phenomenon. Mm-hmm. That's it. Mm-hmm. And to the degree that it's a disturbing phenomenon, I have to be honest with myself that I'm not at peace, and that I'm missing an opportunity for forgiveness and for healing of the sonship. And there's no small degrees. Right? It says there's no scale of difficulty here.
Right.
This topical conversation was taken from a longer episode that I've linked in the show notes and at the end of the video. So if you're interested in this kind of topic, this unique way of looking at the way the world is put together, check out that longer episode. It's from the Course in Miracles, and if you're not familiar with it, the Course has a lot of religious language. A lot of it is Christian-based. Don't let that deceive you, because it's actually a window into the matrix that we live in. It provides lessons and techniques and ideas that give access to the way this place really, really works. Gives a strong sense of purpose and order to all unfolding events. It's very wonderful that way. So if you're interested in exploring the Course with us, we go through this chapter by chapter, paragraph by paragraph, with in-depth discussions about what makes this world really work for us, so that we can be happy. Thanks. Be great to see you.